Miss Minutes, and it's my job to catch you up before you stand trial for your crimes. So settle in.
Now hang on just a minute.
And we'll get you in front of a judge in no time.
Who actually believes this crap?
Sir, let me see your ticket.
No.
Hi everyone, I'm Dom Griffin. I'm a film critic and you're watching the Armchair Auteur. This is an ongoing video series I do where we talk about new movies, old movies, screenplay analysis, television series reviews, that sort of thing. So if you like movies and you like movie adjacent popular culture and you like to see somebody pick those things apart, please consider subscribing. I just got to watch the first 2 episodes of the new Disney Plus series Loki, the latest in a long line and ever continuing line of new TV series set in the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This one brings Tom Hiddleston back into the character that made him a star, and I can't talk about plot specifics or whatever. I mean, I guess I could, but I'm not going to because people get mad about spoilers for these sorts of things. So I will only share details of the show that you could glean from watching the trailer to the show. I feel like that's fair. If you're new to the channel, I have a couple of videos on here already where I reviewed Wandavision, where I talked about Falcon and the Winter Soldier twice, and I'm someone who's a bit fatigued overall with the entire MCU product, the entire entity. So I went into Loki with pretty low expectations. When they first announced this big slate of new MCU shows on Disney Plus, I had hoped these shows were going to be Feige and company learning from what didn't work about the Netflix series like Daredevil and Jessica Jones, i.e. the seasons always being 4 episodes too long and the continual feeling these were the redheaded stepchildren of the larger franchise. Instead, they, so far, just feel like Marvel movies that would be too risky to release in theaters, so they've been segmented into miniseries format. So, good that the seasons are shorter, yeah, but especially with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they just wind up feeling like chopped up movies that don't feed into a more serialized storytelling style the way one might hope. But Loki doesn't really have that vibe, thankfully. Based on what I've seen so far, yes, this could theoretically have been pruned into a standalone Loki movie, but structurally and tonally, it truly does feel like a worthwhile television product all on its own. From Heels creator Michael Waldron and British TV vet Kate Herron, Loki picks up directly from the scene in Avengers Endgame where this new Loki variant, one plucked directly from the end of the first Avengers film, runs amok with the Tesseract, only to run afoul of the TVA, the Time Variance Authority, a Time Cop-esque agency originally created during Walt Simonson's Thor run. The series is largely concerned, as one might guess, with the TVA recruiting Loki to help them catch another rogue timeline variant they've had difficulty capturing, setting up a sort of a 48 Hours vibe between Tom Hiddleston's Loki and Owen Wilson's Agent Mobius. It is, honestly, delightful. Now, I'm on record as being more than a little sick of Loki in the MCU, if only because as much as I like Tom Hiddleston in the role, it felt like none of the films were giving him anything to do on par with the concurrent work happening in the comics, from writers like Kieran Gillen and Al Ewing, to make him being this charming antihero worth following. But the decision to bring back a Loki from 2012, and not the one who grew and changed and died, actually pays dividends, because this Loki still holds massive delusions about himself and his place in the world, leaving Mobius to, not unlike a concerned fan breaking the fourth wall, force Loki to probe inward and figure out what his whole deal really is.
Figure out what you do! You had all summer to think of it!
This sort of meta twist works so well for me because it's perfectly in line with the TVA's original positioning in the comics, where Simonson was making an inside joke about corporate comics having to always need some measure of retconning, retroactive continuity, to keep their fictional universes functioning normally. Hell, Mobius, the character Wilson plays, was originally drawn to look like Mark Grunwald, Simonson's editor at the time, and one of Marvel's most legendary writers and keeper of continuity ephemera. So employing that character here to comment on the MCU, the way its comics counterpart did the original 616 timeline, is pretty cool to me, even if I know that on the page it had significant potential to wind up being fan servicey bullshit. But that's why I've got to talk about the main reason I like this show so much. And that is, surprisingly, Owen Wilson. I've never considered myself an Owen Wilson fanboy, necessarily, even though I like him in pretty much everything he's ever been in, but he is such a delight here as Mobius. Outside of his work with Wes Anderson, few of his movie roles take full advantage of the full breadth of his on-screen persona, and the level of sincerity that anchors everything he does on screen. Obviously, at this point, the MCU encompasses such a vast number of talented actors that when someone recognizable joins the world, it feels inevitable and honestly unexciting. The minute an actor starts to make a name for themselves, a clock starts ticking until they show up in one of these things as some random character from an old issue of Team Up or something. But Wilson, more so than any recent MCU additions, perfectly fits this world. He's goofy and self-aware enough that he can do the self-effacing, can you believe we're really doing this meta humor all the Marvel movies use as insecure shielding? But he's a good enough actor that you really believe everything he says and does. It feels weird to be gushing about Owen Wilson this much in a show that features Tom Hiddleston's Loki, but the truth is, Owen Wilson steals 100% of the scenes that they're in together through the first 2 episodes of the show that I watched. I'm convinced he'll continue to do it for the rest of the series unless he dies or something. His specific presence just works really well, and it actually sort of enhances Tom Hiddleston's work with the character. Mobius comes off like this weird mix of a weary detective and also a concerned spectator who cares about the characters that he has to watch over in a way that I think really suits this stage of the MCU. It's been around long enough for there to be so much detritus and stuff to pick apart, that having a character who's outside of the world a little bit and sort of making minor commentary about the world that we've been watching actually kind of works better for me than some of the other stuff they've been doing recently. And having this character around and forming the show around his chemistry with Hiddleston means that you don't have to sit through what the show could have been, which is just Tom Hiddleston running amok doing Loki things, sort of like a Deadpool variant, but for more Tumblr-spurned fanfiction authors. So kudos to the creative team for finding a way to make a show about Loki interesting and not just something to appease the shippers. If I have any criticisms about the show, it's that it still has that weird, annoying, drab MCU look to it. Some of the production design feels quirkier, really playing into the Terry Gilliam-esque anachronistic bureaucracy of Police in the Time Stream stuff. And the score from Natalie Holt genuinely surprised me, coming off as some of the best music in an MCU product since Black Panther or Ragnarok. But it still has that muddy quality to it that every MCU thing has, and I just don't understand why they can't leave that grayish tone in the past. Let's just make some stuff that looks exciting and looks fun. This really does sort of feel a little bit like what Taika Waititi did in Ragnarok, but with a weird Instagram filter put over it so that it looks kind of like a 70s album cover. I don't know. It's not bad per se, but it is something that stuck out to me. The entire time I was really enjoying it, but I kept feeling wow, if this just looked better, I would not keep thinking in the back of my head about how I don't love how this looks. That said, I do think that it is way better than the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It immediately grabbed me. It immediately felt like something I want to watch week to week, not something I'm watching just to keep up with the zeitgeist. It doesn't feel quite as formally inventive as WandaVision. It's not sort of breaking those barriers quite as much. It's not trying to be as experimental, but for what it is, it still does have enough charm and wit, and it feels genuinely funny. A lot of Marvel stuff is not funny. It's dramatic, and then characters just kind of turn to each other being oh, can you believe that just happened? It's not like that. It actually kind of feels like a real thing. It works. It works a lot better than I expected. It is only 6 episodes, but I am kind of bummed that I got this early, because now I'm not going to get a new episode for 3 weeks. Because it debuts Wednesday, the first episode, and the second one a week after that, and a week after that. So that kind of blows for me, but I think people should check it out. I think if you like Marvel stuff, you're going to anyway. It's not like you log on to youtube.com to have people convince you not to watch your favorite thing that you obsess over every day. But if you're someone who's lapsed or not quite as devoted and you're on the fence about watching it, I'd say watch it. I think it's fun. Maybe by the 3rd or 4th episode, I'll find something I don't like about it and be annoyed with it. But in terms of filling the coveted spot as that one thing I watch every week on Disney Plus until The Mandalorian comes back, yeah, I think Loki's a winner. So yeah, those are my thoughts about the first 2 episodes of Loki. I think you guys should check it out when it drops. It's fun, it's cool. The Owen Wilson Renaissance is upon us, and that's a cool thing as far as I'm concerned. Maybe they can get Luke in here too, I don't know. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It tells YouTube that you like what I do, and I appreciate that very much. If you have any thoughts about Marvel stuff, about how good Owen Wilson is in Armageddon, anything like that, you can talk to me in the comments below. I love talking to you guys. And if you have not subscribed, this would be a really good time to do that. Subscribe, hit the little thing that gives you notifications every time I put a new video. You get to be the first person in line to hear whatever I think about whatever I watched, and that's fun, right? Thank you guys again for watching. Hope everyone's staying safe, being good to yourselves and each other. I will see you in the next video.